Peter, this is our sponsor, Cycling Frog. It's seltzer. It's seltzer with pot in it. And you know how I know it works? Because I'm holding the can upside down.
I saw that.
Cyclingfrog.com. Use the code SUM for stand-up memories and you will get a discount. And you will love this stuff. 5 milligram or 2 milligram size. It's fantastic. Cyclingfrog.com.
Get buzzed without the alcohol. Here it is right side up.
Oh.
Welcome to another episode of Stand Up Memories. I am Peter Bales. This is Jackie the Joke Man Martling. And boy, oh boy, what a guest. We have a true comedian from the day.
You say that every week.
well,
you realize, you think he doesn't know that?
This is Stand Up Memories, and we have a terrific comedian.
You are a favorite, Steve.
You are the best.
Of course.
This is Steve Shaffer, ladies and gentlemen. And I want to start, Steve.
Yeah.
Steve is completing, almost done with, a memoir about his experiences in comedy and what he learned and what he saw. And it's a great title. Tell Me the Truth Unless It Is Bad.
That's great.
Hey, Steve, tell us about your memoir, your memories. That's what this show is about. And I want you to tell us the truth, even if it's bad.
Well, the title comes from my mother because the memoir takes place in the early 80s, but it also includes my growing up in Philadelphia, South Philly, and my having to leave my career, which was blooming, to go home and be with my dying mother. And so I spent a year with her in Philadelphia, in South Philly, which is a light year from Hollywood, in 1988. But I would take her to the doctor, and every time I took her, she'd say, "Tell me the truth, unless it's bad."
That's
So I
just
thought-
classic.
Now, you started at the comic strip. Is that fair?
Yes.
In what year?
I arrived with my sketch group in 1978. And we performed at the comic strip. Jerry Seinfeld was the MC. He said, singers one song, comedians one joke, and jugglers one ball.
I know the name. I was there. He was part of a comedy group, a trio called the Comedy Clinic.
Yeah, an unfortunate name, but whatever.
No, it wasn't. It was perfect.
Was it guys and girls out of Philly?
No, me and two college buddies, three men.
What college, first of all?
Penn State.
Penn State.
Wow.
Yeah. We all went to Penn State, met in the theater department, although my major was education. My parents would never go along with it, but we met in the theater department, and I thought I was so lucky to have two of the funniest, incredibly creative people I'd ever met. And it turns out that Mark King was and is, to this day, one of the most funny, brilliant comic actors that I ever met. And I think you may attest to that, Peter.
I will attest to it. Mark King. Wow. But give your other partner.
Why do I recognize that name? Is that a comic strip name?
It's a comic strip name. He was part of the Comedy Clinic. He was incredibly talented. He was
I mean,
so funny.
we got so much attention. I have to be honest, it was Mark's abilities were on display, and we got a lot of heat because of Mark's contribution. But you know, we all participated, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
the three of you. And the third member was?
Bruce Packman,
Who
who was very funny, but you know, this business is brutal. And so when the group broke up, he he had less success and decided to move to California and teach.
All right, good for him.
So before the
Yeah.
comic strip, did you guys do Philadelphia like the Comedy Works and Comedy Factory Outlet, or did you come right to New York?
We went right to New York, rehearsed for a month, and auditioned at the comic strip. And within the month, we had the best spots on the show, on Saturday night prime spots, and everybody hated us.
Everybody hated you. What are you talking?
Are you talking about the audience or the other comics?
The other comics loved and hated us.
Well, okay, I'm interested in that.
Yeah.
Were they jealous? What was going on?
They
with
didn't. Some of the comics were there for a couple of years and didn't get Saturday night prime spots at the strip. We walked in, and that was what we got.
If I had to guess,
Because you deserve
some of them had a problem with the fact that there was more than one guy up there.
Oh, well, I don't know what to say about that, except we were a sketch group, and there's only one way to handle it.
Of course.
Hey, Steve, something just popped into my head. When you
Yeah.
guys used to open, you had a song,
Yeah.
and by setting you up, you did a quick little song just to set the mood, and it worked. And Bruce used to hit a triangle when you were done with the song. Am I right?
That is absolutely correct.
And did it
Wow.
start with "We Are"? Now you pick it up.
Mark King and I had harmonized very well. So you have to imagine the song with two voices, but it would begin with "We are the comedy clinic where two fun guys will have great fun before your eyes. And if you stay, I'm sure you'll say, these crazy guys are good today. Today." And it had a big harmony, and the audience loved it. And then Bruce would go, ding.
Just silly, just silly.
Silly.
And but I always assumed Bruce couldn't sing like me. So you
Yes,
had
that's true.
that's okay. So that makes sense. I think you said three fun guys, not two fun guys. You just sang
Fun
two.
guys.
Yeah, three fun guys.
Yeah.
And
Are you going to correct him on his act?
I was there. I know his act better than he does.
That's great.
You're
So
asking
you
me to
start
recall
your
a
act.
song 40
Yes.
years ago.
You're starting your act with a great burst of energy like that. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
And-
yeah. It was smart. We were theater people, so we knew how to grab.
And their funniest sketch by far, and you know what I'm talking about, featured Mark King doing the chipmunk voice.
Right. There was it was a time when if you're being scrutinized over your ethnicity, it was a very trying time. So we would interview Mark as trying to get into a university, but he was in fact a chipmunk. And so he of course was experiencing prejudice, and we interviewed him about that, and he was just brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah. He did the chipmunk voice, which only certain people can do.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It was, but his timing and his charm, and he was so dedicated and on point. I mean, you just fell in love with him,
and he was I hope, a super guy. I was crazy about his talent, and he was such a nice guy.
Well, he was an interesting person.
He was.
That's a good catch-all.
Now, when you broke up, you went on to a very, very, very successful stand-up career.
Well, I first did improv. I was a part of a few improv groups in New York and in Boston. I auditioned for The Proposition, which was a pretty good, well-established improv group at the time, and I got in. So I did a couple shows with them, corporate shows with them, but it wasn't paying the bills, and I didn't really think that this was my destiny. So about a year or two later, I went back to the comic strip as a stand-up.
And what year is that we're talking? 85?
That would have been about 81 or 2.
Oh.
Now, you did the Tonight Show. What year was that?
84.
How'd that go? How was that experience?
It went very well, except that I was as nervous as a squirrel going through walnut withdrawal.
Okay.
which is the case with everybody, right? I'm sure.
Well, you know, I lost 10 pounds in a week. I couldn't fit into my clothes. I was a wreck, but I did rather well, got the high sign from Johnny, and I was asked to return in 2 months.
Did
Wow.
you?
No,
That's
no, I didn't because I wasn't ready. And so I put it off and declined. And then you know how that goes. Never decline when the king makes a request.
right. You know, everybody says, I never did it, of course, but so many people set out. The only one I remember that never said that said they weren't nervous at all, Dennis Wolfberg. I remember him saying, just another gig. Just you remember him saying that?
That's
It was
insane.
just another gig. If even if he was lying, it sounded, he just
Well,
walked out there and did
1984,
my act.
no, not in 1984, it wasn't just another gig, it was an accomplishment. It was significant that it could change your life
Oh, no, no,
and
I'm not
change
disavowing
lives.
that. I'm just saying he wasn't, intimidated by it, which is,
You know what we like to ask comics, and you've done so much road work.
Yeah, I
Let's
certainly have.
and I always say, 99% of it is so wonderful and the shows are so much fun. But we get some answers, boy, when we have comedians telling us their worst experiences when things went wrong.
what era were you? Were you like the zanies and the funny bones and
I was I started out in 1982. I was on the road and headlining. So one of my first gigs was the Punchline in Atlanta, Georgia,
wow?
which which was one of the few prime gigs at the time.
Oh,
In fact,
stop.
I signed my name in the side corridor as the third or fourth comic that ever performed there, after Seinfeld and a couple others who I can't recall. I think it might have been Kevin Nealon. I don't recall right now, but I was like number four, the first one of the first five, I guess, who performed at the Punchline. So then at the Funny Bones, I did a lot of Funny Bones. I worked almost every week somewhere on the road. I did the ships for 25 years, uh,
Wow.
which was very discombobulating, but it's where the money was. When I returned from Hollywood, returned from LA with a family. So that's what I did. But yeah, a lot of road. But the road is destabilizing at first, and also it's exhilarating but destabilizing. You you're you need to be back in the city to be exposed to real opportunities that will change your life and your level.
Yeah, you
You
miss
have
the
to stay in New
auditions
York.
you miss the auditions when you're on the ship, is what I'm saying.
Right. You miss the auditions. I missed the auditions when I was on the road, just not when I was doing the Funny Bones. Or so I decided to stay in as much as I could, and it worked. It mattered. That's how I
They
got the Tonight Show, the Montreal Comedy Festival, and a dozen other television shows that have been that I still receive a pension for with SAG-AFTRA, and I'm grateful.
All right.
you know
Sounds
they
good.
those back then, you work the funny bone and you work zanies and you work giggles, and then I know for me at some point all of a sudden it's like I can't do this anymore. I can't
Right.
sit around all day waiting for the nighttime to do an hour or 45 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Weeks, once the weeks start to feel long, like at
Right.
first, the excitement of going away to a strange town and telling
Right.
comedy, it was like a carnival. But when it
Right.
wasn't a carnival, boy, it wasn't a carnival. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah. I mean, people think it's so exciting and colorful. You meet new people, you're spending new money, and you're seeing new cities. All true. But the road, it can be so debilitating. And just as you said, it's a lot of hurry up and wait.
Right, right. And then if you wind up with somebody on the road with somebody you don't like or don't you, not even
Right.
like somebody you don't want to be with, it's like
Right. There was a lot of condo sharing
right, right,
at the
right,
time. That
right.
was, kind of fun, I suppose, in the beginning, but very quickly got tedious and boring.
Hey,
Yeah.
Steve.
Yeah, yeah.
And some owners were a lot better than others. You know, if there's a
Oh,
place
that's
where you
so
like
true.
the owner, it was 180 degrees to a place where you thought the guy was a dick. You know what I mean?
Right. Most owners are classists. Most owners could give a shit about the opener in the middle. But they were respectful to the headliner. And I always thought it was a little upsetting. I felt sorry for the openers and middle. Sometimes these people would like question their entire lives and have nervous breakdowns on the road, and I'd be like, relax. I try to console them, but it was only a few. But it could be a really difficult experience when the owner doesn't pays no attention to you.
Right, right.
Doesn't care
It's
about anything but the bottom line.
like you're treading water, for nothing,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But that's life,
Hey,
really.
Steve, I bet I know
Yeah.
that, we all need passwords when we're online. And I bet sometime in your life when you had to come up with a password
Oh
for a
God.
website, that
Yeah.
password was Fatty Boombalatti.
I
Have you
was
ever
never
used that as a password? And please explain to Jackie and our audience what the term Fatty Boombalatti means.
well, first of all, it's much too long to be used as a password, but
Perfect
it
password.
it was it was a bit of mine where I was just recalling my nephew's reference to a large person on the other end of a pool one day when he said, he yelled, "Look at that fat guy." At which point I thought he was going to beat the shit out of both of us, and then start calling him a fatty boombalatti and singing a song that I couldn't stop him from singing. He's a big fat fatty, a fatty boom. I'm putting him in a headlock. I'm trying to restrain him, holding his mouth. The kid was it was funny but embarrassing, and I thought, well, here's a bit if I ever heard one.
But paint a picture. Is the kid 4? Is he 8? Is
Oh
he
yeah, he's
12?
4 years old. That's exactly right. 4 or 5, and he sees the guy and he starts singing the big fat fatty fatty boom boom, which is a great word and interest, but it's not an adult word. You don't go to the doctor's office. Doctor ever turns to you and says, I'm sorry, but you're a fatty boombalatti. We're going to have to send you to the fatty boombalatti clinic. There you receive support from other fatty boombalattis. It's
And of
just
course,
not.
when you wanted the kid to stop, that made him to want to do nothing but keep going, right?
Well, in my neighborhood, if you really wanted a kid to stop, he stopped.
Which is South Philadelphia.
Yeah, where I grew up, if you didn't stop, you usually got smacked,
Wow.
and so he would stop. But it was too funny not to recall, not to try to bring to life on stage, which I did, and it was just uh, it was a great bit that oddly enough people still remember, and I'll go to Vegas every so often and they go, "Oh, you're the fatty boombalatti guy," and I
Oh,
guess
that's
I am.
great. Well, Bales remembered.
I
You
remember
did.
it. I remember it like it was
Yeah,
yesterday.
I did it
What's
a
the
lot, but not on the Tonight Show. I wish I did, but I didn't.
Yeah. What's the worst experience on stage? I mean, we've had comics talk about a fight breaking out, the power going out, completely
Oh
blanking out on their act.
gosh, on stage.
Yeah.
Well, um huh, on stage, I geez, I have to say I've been pretty lucky in that regard. I didn't have many bad experiences while performing, although in St. Louis there was a woman and a man, a couple down front the St. Louis Funny Bone, which was a great club, by the way.
Great club. Great
Great
club.
club. And the audiences were always responsive and just lovely. Anyway, right down front was a young, handsome couple. The woman was flashing her pussy. Can I
Can
say
you say
that?
that on this podcast?
He just did. She was scratching it.
Flashing,
Oh, flat. I thought you said scratching.
which
just
would have been
projecting,
also
Jackie.
interesting. She would open her legs, no panties, and I would take a look, and then she would raise her eyebrows.
Was she
What
putting on a show for you knowingly?
She was putting on a show for me, and I got lost for him. I would get lost, and I like lose my place, and I thought, what is going on here? And the husband or boyfriend uh, uh, was getting upset with me, thinking I was flirting with her, not realizing that she was flashing me
Oh,
for the
he didn't
last
know she was doing that.
right. He had no idea. And so he got upset and started like pointing at me like what's what are you doing? What's going on? Like I can't remember what he said, but he started saying things that seemed like heckles, but I knew exactly what they were. He was mad because he thought I was somehow flirting with his girlfriend from the stage. And I had no idea how to tell him that the flirting was coming from her end. And
So to
we got
speak.
into it
Her front end.
because, excuse me,
From
for
her
her
front
end,
end.
yeah, that end. And so we got into it, and I had to ask them to be kicked out. I had to ask the management to intervene, and they walked away, and the boyfriend flipped everybody off, the audience, me, and I'll never forget the audience singing simultaneously, ah ha ha ha, hey hey hey, goodbye, and it was just a wonderful moment because I thought they were going to hate me, but instead they were happy to have the show back.
But nobody
calm
was
hands.
privy to what was going on.
Right. Nobody except for me and that woman.
Not,
That is
not to
terrific.
mention he's up there working to an echo.
No. Oh, man.
Wow.
If you could take that story down a notch, I think you took the opportunity. That is a very classy story. I love it. And I'll tell you something, I would have done that gig for free.
You know, we talked about this some other times. It took a while. It's funny when you realize something and you can't believe you never realized it before, but any back and forth you have with the people in front, no one knows what you're talking about. I have an album that starts off, look at the boobs on this girl, and she might as well have been a guy. Nobody knew. You know,
Right.
like I was with
Well,
Rodney and a couple nights in the beginning, say, hey, you get your hand off your pee-pee. And I said to myself, oh, he's so lucky. There's always somebody in the front with their hand on their pee-pee. And then I realized, no, there isn't.
There doesn't have
But
to
you
be.
don't know that.
No.
You know, and once you
Right.
realize that, but that's funny with the.
Yeah. Yeah.
Were they waiting when the show was over?
The couple.
Yeah, were they waiting?
No, they were long gone. They were embarrassed. They were both embarrassed. I could tell. They kicked him out, and they were never seen again. But one of the things that I do, one of the things I remember off stage, were that there were a couple fights, fist fights, serious fights that took place in comedy clubs that I never saw in my entire life. The brutality that happened in one club in Long Island and one club in Pittsburgh.
This is during the show while you're on stage?
No, after the show. After the show, it was a fights that I had never seen. Brutal. One was in Long Island with a bachelorette party, so it was women, about 5 or 6 women who would not leave and started to beat the heck out of the bouncers. They fought back.
Oh, Jesus. I'm getting aroused.
I know, it was amazing. Punching, kicking, throwing.
Like a fight. You're talking about a fight.
a fist
Fist
fight,
fight.
headlocks. I mean, and the women were winning. For one thing, there was 5 of them and 2 bouncers. So they were like beating the crap out of these guys, and they were kicking them. And finally, they got them out. But it was brutal, brutal, brutal. The one in Pittsburgh was a little sad, but because it was a fight that started with prejudice, the a white guy was referring to a black guy who was behind him as the N word. And after the show, they got into it, and he, the the black guy hit the white guy in the head with a bottle
Whoa.
right in front of me, and his head opened up like a volcano. Uh, Big gash, blood everywhere, and it just was insane. And I'll never forget those moments. Will always be in my head as well.
That's right. When you say to yourself, is there no end to the glamour?
And those young comedians watching our podcast, these moments will happen to you as well.
Well, we're talking about 40 years on the road now.
Yeah,
These moments, most of which were delightful and
Delightful, right.
exciting. But these were these were the other moments.
These were the other moments. Wow.
Another good
Wow,
title.
wow. Did you ever regret that you went into comedy? Do you
Never,
never, not for a second, right?
never, not even briefly. Not even when I was poor as a church mouse, which I was in the beginning. I could care less. I saw it as a calling that was pulling me from another world.
you were
I
locked
couldn't
in. You
I
locked
couldn't
in.
control it. I needed it more than anything.
What other
Yeah, never
comedians,
regretted it.
what other comedians did you meet in your travels that you really loved, who really impressed you as people?
Oh, good. That's a great question. Because there were many. Uh, Geez. You know, in the very beginning, I was lucky. I worked with Mac and Jamie. Do you remember Mac and Jamie?
Back in James.
Very well.
Mac Dryden and Jamie Allcroft. Um, Terrific and extraordinary people, both of them, and welcoming. And I was still new, and they were headliners, but they were so helpful and supportive. And I will forever be grateful to both of them for their suggestions and the opportunity to work with such helpful people. I mean, they really gave me wonderful advice,
Nice.
and they were both incredibly talented and amazing to watch. I learned so much just watching them.
Right there. I
How to
spent
grab the
like
excuse
2 or
me?
3 weeks in the Fort Lauderdale comic strip, where you work every night. And they just always fun and so supportive,
Right, right.
And everybody,
Terrific.
everybody isn't.
Give us
That's
one
right.
more.
That's right.
Let's end on a positive note here. Who's another great person that you met in your travels?
Jeez.
Are you trying to get you're trying to get him to say you, right?
That's assumed.
Okay.
Well, besides you guys, and by the way, Jackie did something that I'll never forget. We worked together a few years ago, some political something, and my son is a big Jackie Martling fan. And I said, Jackie, my kid really likes you, and if you could sign something and give it to him, he would be so excited. And Jackie gave me a box of cassettes and CDs and photos and books and signed them and to Henry and I was like, it was so overwhelming, but it made me look like a great dad. And when my kid received him, he was over the moon. So I will honestly say that Jackie was a very important and lovely person to be with.
No, I
on
gotta
the
say-
I
road.
had no idea where that was going to go. I was
I-
waiting to say, I gave him my address and said, this is for my kid. And I never heard from him again. That son of a bitch, you know.
Right
No,
now,
no, it was
our
great.
entire audience right now is saying to themselves, wow, that story is unbelievable. No, but the truth is you were nice and you got it back.
More than nice,
Yeah.
very generous as you could. I didn't expect it, but when somebody does something for your kid, it's so much more significant than being done for you.
Well, you
It-
know,
Oh.
what's crazy is I really have sent packages and packages and packages out forever. But the truth is, it's all self-aggrandizing. It's me telling jokes and me doing this. It's all my stuff. Not to mention, I think in the back of my mind, I knew that in another 20, 30 years, I was going to need him in my audience because I'd be
That's
still
entirely
doing this
true.
crap.
Hey, Steve Shaffer, you are the absolute best coming on, sharing your memories. We're going to
Thank
watch
you.
for your memoir. Tell us the great title for your memoir again.
It is at the moment. Tell me the truth, unless it's bad.
I like that attitude.
Have you got a potential publishing date, or is it published, or is it released?
I have an agent that I work with, and he's read parts of it, and he's been very supportive and enthusiastic. So I'm going to start with him, and so we'll see where it goes from there.
And you are still out there, my man. You are performing
am.
all over the place. Steve Shaffer, S-C-H, wait.
No C, no
No
C.
C.
Oh, here he
Sorry, I
goes.
spelled it wrong. S-H-A-F-F-E-R, Steve Shaffer. And I
Yeah.
recommend you go see this guy do stand-up because he's terrific. I really do.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks for doing this, and we will do it again. We do half hours because that's what people stay at. That's the attention span, you know.
Jackie, anything for you, pal. And of course, you too, my man. Peter, I
All
love
right,
you.
Steve and I go way back.
I love you
Thank
both.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
got
Thank you for coming on. Steve Shaffer, this has been Stand Up Memories. That's been Jackie the Joke Man Martling. He can't speak because of the compliment you gave him. And I'm Peter Bales, and we'll see you next time on Stand Up Memories.